Now, how many new students do you have that do not live in this attendance area coming this year?
So I think we're right at about 36 students. So
That's double anybody else.
Yeah, so we're right at about 36.
Why do you think you've been so popular?
I think we've been really good at what we do, and the word gets out, and we have a supportive community that sings praises for us. I mean, they're going to come in and let you know when they think things aren't right, but they'll let the world know when things are wrong. It's kind of like a small family. Like, I'll chastise you in private, but I openly praise you. And so I think that's a good thing about the people who are part of this school.
What role do you think the new curriculum, the STEAM curriculum and STEAM program has in that decision for people to say, yeah, it might be farther away, but I want my student to go there?
It's just about the opportunities. It's the world that you'll be able to afford to them. We're looking at new things for our area. At one time, we would just have folks in our school system that were part of either the hospitality industry. We had very few that were part of the International Paper Company. Most of those people lived in the Georgetown area or commuted from other areas, and so we were kind of limited about what we were exposed to and what we know. And so now, because we try to present those things all the time when we're talking about new careers, one of the things we did differently this year here on the 100th day of school, we decided we were going to look at 100 careers. And we plastered our hallways with all 100 things that you can do that you probably are not aware of. And here's how you do those things. And here are different colleges and universities that will afford you these things. And here's trade schools. So we did it on both levels so they didn't feel like I have to work in this particular industry because this is all I know. It now says, what about this? And have you ever heard of this? And were you aware that this is a job or a career that you can be in? And so we just kind of shifted how we presented information.
So what will students notice that will be different when they return August 3rd compared to what it was like when they left school back in June? I mean, what will be different curriculum-wise and otherwise?
So, of course, science is changing. That's something that came to us from the State Department. We will now have a new STEM teacher. That's a blessing we got from our board that says, hey, we're going to move in this direction. Let's give you the tools you need to be successful. So that's going to be great for us. How we approach our enrichment class is going to be a little bit different for us. Not different as a bad thing, but now we used to do things almost in isolation. So I would go in my room when I teach math, or you'd go in your room when you teach English. Now the plan is, how is it what I'm learning in math can be found and represented in the English class? How does it relate to art? How does it relate to music? So we're purposefully planning for those integration so that everything fits together, so that so the puzzle comes together. They're small pieces, but we bring in the puzzle together. So now we've got this beautiful picture when we're done.
Mm-hmm. So how will the curriculum be different? How do you intertwine the STEAM theme into history, math, English? I mean, how does that work?
So with very, very purposeful planning. So what we're looking at is how, if you're teaching this, and it has us to have those open conversations where we're always planning together. So we're in this thing together. So if I'm teaching on a particular, we're looking at growth. I'll just use that one because one of the things we're looking at is having a greenhouse. And so that's the quickest thing that came to my mind. If we're talking about growth, we're talking about the growth of a civilization. We can talk about the growth in music when we do expansion, when our notes changes. We can talk about the dimensions in pictures where I can look like I'm walking down the road just by narrowing in my lines. So we're talking about how those things can all come together and what it sounds like, look like, and is, and how do we know when we get them all together. And how we're going to know this year is that our kids will be able to have those lessons, present those things on their own to their parents and just say, hey, this is what I learned. And our theme this time was on growth, and this is how it applies to all subject matters in our building. So that's where we are.
If I remember right, at first there was a little bit of apprehension because it was new. People were worried that their schools would be changing, and but do you think that subsided now and people are on board?
Right, and I think there were a few people that were a little bit apprehensive. And so that even when we had our meeting where we say, okay, we're coming together, we're bringing all the schools together, we've got one central spot, and so everybody that still has a question that may have felt like they did not get the information up front, we're going to meet in this one centralized spot so that we can answer those questions. What some may have said was mass confusion, and we didn't know that when we had that meeting, there wasn't a lot of people there who did not know, and the folks who were there just wanted to make sure they had clarity. And there were some questions. For the most part, they were saying, it is my understanding that is how they would preface it. Explain a little bit more. So it's almost as if for the one or two that was just struggling with the information, just explain this a little bit better, maybe better than I have. So that was a really good one for us, that we all got together and then disseminated the information together for those people who still had questions or concerns.
You had to get a teacher to lead the magnet program. So tell us about your teacher.
Okay, so this is a little bit easier than my interview questions. So the teacher that interviewed for the position, we were looking for someone who could truly lead, who was okay with going in the classroom, looking for things, bringing back some ideas. So we're really looking for an innovator, a mover and a shaker. Ms. Fulton has served in this building, I think, since 2010-11 school year as our CTE person, but she was also a part of FBLA. She was our FBLA advisor, and so that was the business part that she brought to us, like the marketing piece, saying who you are and being who you are, holding yourself accountable, those kinds of things she brought to the table. So after the interview process and her wow factor, it was just a shoo-in that she would be the person, the candidate that would lead us this coming school.
So tell me, why did you want this position?
Well, initially I was approached about the position, and Mr. Glover, even though he wasn't here, also Miss Frazier and some of my colleagues suggested that I might be a good fit. So that kind of pointed me in the direction of applying. I'm one of those teachers who like to help everyone, and I love to see the kids grow, explore, take on new challenges, learn new things, because I tell them every day in my room, the world is not small, it ain't big, it's global. So this gave me an opportunity to do what I love, just on a larger scale, beyond my classroom, for the whole school, more or less.
You'll have some students from 6th through 8th grade. You'll have some students that will only be 8th grade. Will you treat it differently from?
It's not more or less a difference in treatment. It'll be a progression in their knowledge and a progression for us as a staff, because some things will be totally new for us as well. However, we're ready to go. So with that being said, for instance, we're going to be a Lego education school. It can also Project Lead the Way. So what I do in grade 6 per a Lego experience, a challenge, a content knowledge, a curriculum, it will build upon. So we'll be building layers. So we're going to build those strengths. Even though I'm playing with my Lego blocks and I made a robot, I'm going to add that math. I'm going to add my ELA. I got to do planning. I got to do strategies. All the things we need, including teamwork, because you got to be social. The world is not isolated. So all those things, we're building skills. So it's building blocks.
August 3rd, what's that day going to be like here?
August 3rd, if it was a little bit earlier, I'd say it'd be like Christmas in July. But August 3rd for us is just going to be an eye-opening. We've talked about it, we've heard about it, we know for almost 2 years it was coming. It's in the planning, it's in the making, and so now it is our walk into greatness. The building itself has changed just a little bit, but I think what's changed the most is our level of expectations. I said to Miss Bolton jokingly, oh, the places we can go, and she said, Miss Bolton, she reminded me, she said, okay, that sounds elementary, what else are we talking about? We're talking about global expansion. What else are we going to say about this? And so we just look at the world of opportunities. That is not flat, that is round, that is global, and where is going to be your place in the sun, because it's so much more than just Georgetown and Hemingway and Andrews. And so where will you fall all depends on what career paths and choice and stuff that we have the pleasure of introducing you to early on, so that you can see that there are spaces outside of this small brick that you've been looking at, that there's so much bigger places out there for you to go, and there's a whole nother building and windows of opportunities waiting for you. And I think that's our biggest walk into this building. It's like, this is the beginning of your journey. Where is it that you want to go? Because it's up to you. And we're kicking down barriers, and we're opening up new horizons for our kids, and that's the most exciting thing, that we're all walking to August 3rd saying I was a part of that.